Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Metropolitan Community Church on this beautiful Thanksgiving Day weekend. Let's keep on the thanks coming on and coming on. It's a great, great thing. I want to say a special thank you to Reverend Caveman and all the people that put together this beautiful lunch that we had here on Thanksgiving Day. I saw the pictures and it's just fabulous. And I'm glad that it was just enjoyed by so many people. And I want to let you know that my name is Pastor Dan, and I welcome you to Metropolitan Community Church this morning, where our mission is to help bring people closer to God and one another. And I pray that by the end of this worship experience, that is your own experience, that you will know that in your heart. And so we've got this wonderful time for you to fill out the Keeping in Touch card that's in the seat back pocket in front of you. Go ahead and fill that out on both sides. And place that in the offering basket a little bit later in the service. And it allows us to have a record of your being with us and contact information to let you know of all the different things that are going on here in the church. And also at the same time for you to give your care needs so that our fabulous care team can reach out and make a big difference in your life or those of your loved ones too. Well, we've got some announcements as we're going to continue. And I invite now Reverend Caveman to come on up and do that.
We really hope that you had a warm Thanksgiving holiday with your friends and family of choice, because sometimes those aren't the same thing. The Met hosted 32 folks for the Thanksgiving Day lunch, and I personally want to thank you all for being part of making that possible by contributing to this church and having the same values. It was a really wonderful event. And today, after the 11 a.m. This service, we are gathering to connect with each other over a meal. I urge you to take advantage of this opportunity to deepen your relationships with the very lovely people of this congregation. I always notice as a pastor, I get to know people kind of on a more personal, intimate level than maybe you get to know each other. And there's some just really beautiful people who are part of this community. And your life will be enhanced by getting to know each other. So we'll be at Tio Leo's at 1 o'clock. The details are in your bulletin if you would like to join us. Everyone's welcome. There's no RSVP required. This Friday is December 1st already, and if you've been part of MCC or the LGBT community for long, you'll recognize that December 1st is World AIDS Day, and that's a time where we focus on getting new HIV infections down to 0 and making HIV undetectable and therefore non-communicable to others. You can join the Met as we attend the Tree of Life lighting ceremony, which is hosted by Mama's Kitchen at Village Hillcrest. And the details, again, are in your bulletin and on the church's Facebook page under our events. I would like to now invite up Mo McElroy for a special announcements on a class that she's offering.
And then the day after World AIDS Day, Saturday, December 2nd, is going to be the Vision Collage Workshop right here in the social hall from 11 to 2. And I've been creating vision collages at the end of 1 year, looking forward to the new year, just to sort of set my intention for the coming year. And this workshop is going to be very mellow, low-key, but it's going to be also very fun, an opportunity to share space and connect with each other. And cardboard, glue, scissors, as well as words and images that I've been cutting out from various magazines all year long in preparation for this workshop. And there's going to be a lot of stacks of unharvested magazines that are available for you as well. So please feel free to bring your own images, cutouts, pictures of loved ones, or pets that you'd like to really personalize your collage. And then we're going to be setting out some snacks and beverages, a light salad bar lunch, and it's all free. Just bring yourself, bring your friends. And if you can RSVP to Caveman, that would really help me out, just help Steve and I out, just knowing how many to expect. And if you don't RSVP, that is fine too. You don't have to show up on time. You don't have to stay the full 3 hours. You can come for a half hour. You can just have it be whatever you want it to be. We would just love to have you. Thank you.
If you haven't seen inside your bulletin yet, there are these order forms that are now available for the Christmas poinsettias. And so you can start filling these out to do your dedications for the poinsettias for Christmas and turn those in to the office, do the offering, anything like that. We're happy to receive it and fill out that dedication for you. I also recommend taking the bulletin home with you and placing it on your fridge or somewhere where you can keep track of all the different services that are going to happen in December, as well as the spiritual growth opportunities and individual events that we have. You can always see what's going on at the church on our Facebook page as well, and support us getting the word out by checking in or sharing events that you support. And speaking of online presence, I wanted to share with you that we started live streaming our worship services in January of this year. And so now that we're toward the end of November, we have an online attendance of between 60 and 70 people who are worshiping with us from all around. And I really appreciate us being able to offer that, to share God's love with people who can't physically be here for any type of reason. So thank you, and I commend you for being amazing disciples and followers of Jesus. It's incredible stuff that we get to do. The beautiful flowers in front of the altar this morning are provided by Sharon Williams in dedication and celebration of Lisa Ginto's birthday. So happy birthday to you. I'm tempted right now just to razz you a little, but we'll stay focused on worship. At this time, I'm honored to invite all of the elementary-aged children to head to the back of the sanctuary for Sunday school today. And now it's time to continue in worship.
Please rise as you're able. This is a great time to meet all those wonderful people.
God through Christ, you willingly provide all that we need.
Grant us one thing, Lord, grateful hearts to sing your praise, both in this world and the world to come.
Cultivate within us the faith required to blossom with honor and truth, so that
we may produce bountifully the first fruits of justice and compassion.
teach us to be content with whatever we have, whenever we have it.
Lure us deeper into trusting you, so that your work might be lifted up and draw more souls to love and be loved by you.
Let us center our hearts and minds. Creator God, we believe in you and we believe in miracles. In the book in 1977 movie, Oh God, you were quoted as saying, I don't do miracles, they're too flashy. But we know otherwise. Why? Because we see miracles all around us, from natural beauty to kindness and actions of people to the positive twists that in life that makes all the difference in the world. May we see the miracle in so many little things we do and the abundance we have. Keep our cups running over with miraculous blessings. Help us to be content and thankful for what we have. Not be afraid to pursue what we want. Guide us in being a little miracle in someone else's life and an encouragement to others whose cups may not be quite so full. Remind us that gratitude doesn't end with Thanksgiving, nor do cheer and goodwill just begin with Christmas time. We lift up the miracle of the friends and family, especially those who are experiencing challenges or worries. Give them strength, courage, that peace that passes all understanding, and perhaps most of all, hope. We give praise for a pretty miraculous planet, and are reminded that if we don't give proper attention to miracles in our care, that they can be lost. Help us to be good stewards of all that we have been given. Open our hearts and minds to the message you have for us today through Pastor Dan's words. During this busy season of the year, slow our pace and keep us alert, God, lest we miss a miracle right in front of us, or in our house, or at the workplace, or at Target, or Starbucks. As we get ready to begin Advent, let us start to center our focus on the great miracle of the birth of Jesus and the impact it had on the world, still makes today in the real lives of real people. All this we lift up as we repeat the words that Jesus shared with his disciples before his death and the miracle of his resurrection. Our
Creator, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Well, this morning we get to continue part 2 of There's a Miracle in Your House. And I believe it. And I want to just say that this is a very special weekend for me. 20 years ago, this weekend, I was kicked out of an Assemblies of God church for being authentically who I am. And they said, you are no longer welcome here, and your credentials will be taken away. And I'm so grateful that 20 years ago I walked into an MCC on a Sunday morning, and I experienced the inclusive love of God. And I thank you for all of you, and I thank Reverend Carmen for being here. What a difference it has made in my life. Well, there's a story that we're going to continue on that we started last Sunday, and it's from the Hebrew Scriptures of 2 Kings. So I invite you, if you want to listen to that, you can go on to our Facebook page and listen to the live stream service on our services there. But also you can just, I'll recap the story a little bit, because in 2 Kings it talks about a pretty horrible and desperate situation that this woman found herself in, and it was through faith and it was through action that a miracle of God's abundant help and provision took place, even in the midst of despair. Even in the midst of what seemed like an impossible situation. Even in the midst of, like, you got to the point of, like, God, are you really there? Period. Have you ever experienced that? God, where are you? This was a God, where are you moment in this lady's life. She was raising 2 children on her own, and suddenly she lost her husband, and thus her only means of supporting her family. She evidently owed a lot of money and didn't have the money to pay her bills. So the creditors came to the door, not just to say, we're going to garnish your wages, but they came to the door to be able to say, we're taking your kids away to work off the debt that you owe. And you probably will never see them again. This is a dire situation. I can imagine what it would be like to be one of the kids, to have the creditors right outside the door. What are you going to do, Mom? I've counted on you all these years. So she cries out to the prophet of God, Elisha, a very powerful and effective prayer. It's a one-word prayer. Help! It's a really good prayer when you don't know what to pray. You can pray, help. Sometimes that's the most effective and the most powerful prayer that we can pray. And many times it's the most honest prayer that we can pray. So he replies to her, well, what do you want me to do? What do you have in your house? And she says, nothing except a jar of oil. And he said, go outside. Borrow vessels from all of your neighbors, empty vessels, and not just a few. Then go in and shut the door behind you and your children and start pouring. Even though this sounded crazy, she was obedient. I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if I would just start going and just like knocking on my neighbor's doors and say, do you have any empty jars? What do you need them for? Oh! Right? A miracle of God. Right? And so all these things, like what is going to happen? And she had a lot of faith to do this, and in faith she did what was instructed because she felt that it was from God. And as she was pouring from one container to the next, she was experiencing a miracle in the action of her pouring. What do you think was going on in her head? What was going on in their children's minds? She kept on saying to her kids, okay, next. Next. What's the next one? And finally, one of the children said, there's no more, Mom. And the oil stopped. And it began right there. She was surrounded by vessels of jars and buckets, all filled to the brim with this oil that can come out of this one little bit of oil that she had left in the house. She was experiencing a miracle of God's provision and of God's abundance just in the nick of time, in the 11th hour of her situation. And then Elisha says this, go and sell the oil now. Pay off your debts, and you and your children can live on the rest. Wow. It's a Hallmark movie just waiting to happen. This time of the year, all those Hallmark movies come out. Do I like them because they have happy endings? And this has a happy ending. Reverend Tommy Barnett came up with what he calls the 10 Commandments for the making of a miracle. Let's review the 3 that we started last week. Number 1, know where to go when you don't know what to do. This is a good one. And I encourage you, if you want to write these down, could be good and apply it to your life in a situation that you might find yourself in right now or maybe in the future. Know where to go when you don't know what to do. She knew where to go because she looked to God as her source. Number 2, look to God as your source. And then look around. Find out what's in the house. There might be a miracle just waiting to happen right there that you don't even know about. You ready for number 4?
Amen.
Let's continue today. Number 4, don't be blinded by negative thinking. How many of us, when we're in a crisis, the first thing that we want to start doing is just like going there? Negativity.
Yeah.
We've done that before. Oh my, what am I going to do now? I didn't plan for it to go this way. How could my husband have died? How could this relationship have ended? How could all of these different things that we're thinking about in our lives, how can this possibly be? That was the widow's frame of mind when she said, I have nothing in the house. Nothing. Except a jar of oil. You see, she started out negative. And then there's this glimmer of hope as she moves toward the positive. Now this is important because when we look to the God of all possibilities, we move from the natural to the supernatural. Whenever we look to God, it goes from the natural to the supernatural. So start getting your mindset ready for something possibly supernatural to happen. And it would have been easier for her just to say, I have nothing, 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 Mr. Prophet. What are you going to do about it? I've never experienced that as a pastor. Just letting you know. It's easier to say, I have nothing. But it takes faith and a different mindset to say, nothing but a jar of oil. You see the difference? Nothing but a jar of oil. One possibility, one hope, one thing that I can offer to God to use and then to multiply. You know, faith doesn't deny present reality. I'm not talking about the faith that you just put your head in the sand and just think that nothing's going on around. I'm talking about faith with your eyes wide open. It doesn't deny present reality, but it acknowledges that all things are possible with God. All things are possible with God. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Faith in God changes how we see things, and it changes the story that we tell ourselves. We're always telling ourselves a story about something. What is your story that you keep on repeating to yourself in your situation? Don't be blinded by negative thinking. Number 5, action is required. Action is required. Now, diagnosing the problem doesn't cure it, but it's the first step toward healing. If we're going to get better, the problem must be treated. So Elisha told the widow that she had to take some action to get out of her desperate situation. So he gave her a faith assignment. And her faith assignment was to go out and to borrow as many empty jars as you can find. I'm so sorry that you lost your husband. How can I help you? Do you have any empty jars? I'm just saying, this is real, right? What would you do if somebody said that? God bless her, right? Oh, empty jars. Someone once said, faith without works is dead. And faith is not faith until we do something. Faith is not faith until we do something. So action is required. Number 6, don't put limits on God. Can you imagine the local gossip? Did she come to your house too? Did she try to borrow those empty jars that you have? You know, the ones that you're going to be using later to fill up, for the Thanksgiving meal that you're going to have. And what are you going to do with all those empty vessels? She kept on saying to her neighbors, I want some. Can I have them? And I'm thinking that people would say, man, I feel sorry for her. She lost her husband. The creditor's coming now to take away her kids. I mean, we've seen this before. And now I'm afraid she's lost her mind. God bless her. Bless her little heart. How many times have we said that about somebody? Bless their little heart. When we're in a desperate situation, sometimes we do desperate things. And this lady was desperate, and she was willing to do just about anything. She had made up her mind that she was going to be obedient to the instructions that God had given to the prophet, and said, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty vessels, and don't ask for just a few. In other words, Elisha was saying, get as many as you possibly can. And I wonder if she had any idea what was going to happen. As she was going around collecting those, do you think she had any idea? And if she had any idea, do you think it would have made a difference in how many jars that she collected? I don't know. The point is, she obeyed, and she put action to her faith. And when God has given us instructions, or God has given us a promise, it's good for us to attempt things so big that unless God helps us, we'll fall flat on our face. In other words, when it's accomplished, God will get the credit. God will keep us humbly aware that it wasn't just us. It's God's work. It's God's success, not ours. And so I ask you this morning, what is your God-sized request? What are you believing God for in your life that you just think, oh boy, I don't know if God can do that one. It'd be nice. You know what I'm talking about? Don't give up on those dreams. Don't give up on what you're believing God for. Keep on believing. Don't put limitations on God's ability to provide, because God works through positive expectations and through dreams and through goals filled with faith and filled with passion. And yes, I want to say this too. God even works when we don't have faith. God works despite our belief and despite our faith. Because I know that there are times when we get so frustrated and we're just done with it. And we're thinking, I can't. I don't have faith. And it took just everything in you to be able to even come to church thinking, okay, I'll try it one more time. God, I need you. And when we get to that point, I have not seen God forsake me. And there's other people here that are going to come around beside of you and lift up your arms and say, you can do it. You're not alone. We can encourage each other. That's the beauty of being in a community of faith. And I know it's the same with me. There are times when I get in my life and I'm just thinking, I don't know, God, if I can go on anymore. It's just like I'm at the edge. And then you come along and you lift me up. And you say, come on, we can do this. We can do this together. We need each other. It comes down to this. Try God. Just try God. You can't do great things if you don't attempt great things, right? So try God. Don't put limits on God. And then number 7, shut the door on doubt. I just like saying that. Shut the front door on doubt. A key factor in this miracle story is what happened when the woman borrowed those empty jars from all of her curious and probably bewildered neighbors. Elisha told her then to go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Interesting, huh? There's always going to be doubt in this world. There's always going to be plenty of people who's going to say, that's not going to work. We've tried that before. We can't afford it. Why are you dreaming so big? It's going to cause more work for all of us. You know what I'm talking about? Negative energy. And I like how Tommy Barnett says it. Elisha knew how quickly seeds of doubt grow in the soil of human despair. When we are in the soil of human despair, seeds of doubt can grow very easily. Elisha realized that the woman's neighbors might think her actions a little strange, and they might ridicule what she's been doing and what she was trying to do. Even though they knew how dire her situation was, they thought, this is crossing the line, maybe. They might call her foolish for believing in something so impractical. Collecting empty jars with even no CRV value. What in the world? And I wonder what kind of unsolicited advice the neighbors and relatives told the children. Sure your mother's all right to take care of you? She feeding you? You know what I'm talking about? She's going around collecting these empty jars. I don't know if she's all there or not. Jesus himself cautioned, consider carefully what you hear. Because Jesus knows that we act on and we react to what we hear from those around us. So consider carefully what you hear, because there is power in our words. And I remind you, there is power in your words. How are you encouraging somebody that feels like at the end of their rope? How are you talking to yourself in that situation? Like Mary, the mother of Jesus, sometimes we just have to ponder those dreams deep in our heart. Treasure them, rather than see them killed cruelly in casual, flippant conversation where we're just going to say something that's so tender to our heart, or we're going to dare to say a dream that we have and somebody's just going to scoff and laugh at it. Until you are ready and strong to hear that, you know that might happen. So that's why we keep it there sometimes. Reverend Barnett said, many miracles are stillborn because doubt is invited into the delivery room. Shut the door on doubt. I like that one. Number 8, pour until there's no more. This woman provided the effort while God made the miracle. As she poured, the action of her pouring, the oil continued to flow. And I hope that she borrowed every empty jar and container available in her town. And people can be vessels too. Last Sunday, Beth, when she was giving the invitation for us to receive our tithes and offerings, talked about how we are invested in people, and people are like vessels. And people are coming here in all shapes and sizes and experiences through the week. Some are empty. Some are lonely. Some are hurting. Some are broken. Some feel damaged. Some feel useless. Some feel abandoned. And it's my hope that we as a church are looking for empty vessels to fill, to pour God's love into, to pour God's hope into. I want to ask you, when's the last time that you invited someone to come to church? If you knew that they would hear a message of inclusive love and hope and of God's abiding acceptance of them, and it would change their situation around, and it would help them grow in their faith and become stronger, and you saw that in a year from now, how different their lives were because of the experience of who they met. Maybe they met their husband or their wife, or who knows? Would you invite them if you knew? I'm just saying, I can't invite your neighbors, but you can. You can just invite them. On the last Sunday of the month, it's kind of cool. Come out with us to T.O. Leo's afterwards. That's all right. It's my hope that we are looking for empty vessels to fill, to pour God's love and hope into. And when we invite more people, they can experience the new hope, the new love, the new joy that we have in sharing the good news of God's inclusive love. Pour until there is no more. God, may we always have empty vessels to fill each and every week. The good news is God's love, God's forgiveness, God's mercies, God's hope, and God's peace are limitless. We can just keep on pouring, and it'll keep on coming all the way through. Number 9, move beyond the miracle. What this means is that we get so mystified sometimes by the miracle that we stay frozen in that position and then fail to move on. It wasn't enough for this widow to witness the miracle. She needed to see God's purpose behind the miracle. What did he tell her? Sell the oil. Pay your debt. That's a good answer to prayer right there, right? Pay your debt. And you and your children can live on the rest. That's another, yeah, I'll take that. I believe God gives miracles for divine purposes and not just for our entertainment. Look for the purpose behind the miracle. And sometimes we get stuck. We glorify the miracle. And then we can't get on with the work that God has called us to do. What good would it have done for her to open up her home so all of those neighbors who scoffed at her would be able to walk through and see all of the empty jars in the home and still have the creditors take her children? What good would that be? Move beyond the miracle. and look for the purpose behind the miracle. And number 10, there will always be enough. Say that out loud with me. There will always be enough. One of the most comforting principles from this miracle story is when Elisha told the widow, you and your sons can live on the rest. That's a good miracle. God provided enough for her to pay the bills, to ensure the family's needs would always be met, and then God's help and God's provision for us is abundant. It's sufficient for today and for tomorrow. I know sometimes I feel like I need my battery recharged, just like our cell phones. I mean, it's just like, I don't know why, when it gets down to 3%, 2%, 1%, you know, it's like, man, it turns red, that little battery thing, and then you get a panic sets in. Do you have a charger? Do you have a charger? Do you have a charger? Thank God there's chargers in public places, you know, where you go and you can just charge it again, and it's a good thing I got it in my car. Sometimes we don't recharge our own spiritual batteries. And we let it run empty and dry into the red, and we operate in that always like, there's a song I used to sing, fill my cup, Lord. Yes. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting in my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Here's my cup. Fill it up and make me whole. I want to close with that as a prayer, and if you know it, I invite you to pray with me. Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Here's my cup, fill it up and make me whole. That's my prayer, that God would do that for each and every one of us. As we move from this Thanksgiving into this wonderful Advent season of preparing for the child of birth, let's be looking for those miracles. And let's be part of those miracles and providing them for other people. Amen. Amen.
Well, I was watching the results of the election in Virginia a couple weeks ago with my husband, my Latino husband, and when they were citing some of the statistics about who voted what way, and they said, white evangelicals. And my Latino husband turned to me and he said, that's you. Come on. We have a responsibility. I know we're not all white evangelicals. We're not all white. We are all different colors. We are all different genders, shapes, sizes, and belief systems. We're not necessarily all evangelicals. But I know that we of faith are being blamed for a lot of stuff that's going on in our country. But we are called to be a people who do justice, who love mercy, who walk humbly with God. And one of the ways I believe we demonstrate walking humbly with God is when our arms are open and our hearts are open to the other, the stranger, the one who's different than us. That's our calling. And without number 5, action is required. Number 10, there will always be enough, doesn't happen. It's sequential. You got to do one before you get the other. So action's required. Take out your cell phone and text a little extra offering. Write a check. If you went to the club last night and you wearing the same pants and you didn't get rid of all those ones to the Go-Go Boys, dig in there and put it in. Action is required. And it's a beautiful way of worshiping God, participating in everything that we've done today. That beautiful song the choir sang, give it up for Armand and the choir.
This is our chance to do what they did. It's just as beautiful. It's just as important. So join with me as the ushers come forward to receive our tithes and offerings in worshiping God in this way. And do step 5 so that we can experience that 10th point. God bless us all.
Why should I
Our God, our Father, our Mother, we love you, and we commit these gifts that we've gathered together to spread the message to everyone who needs to hear it, that your love is all-inclusive. Your eye is on the sparrow. Watch us. Equip us to spread the message of your unconditional love to a world in need. In Jesus' name.
You have something to be thankful for on this Thanksgiving weekend? Can you find something? I invite you to join me in the great Thanksgiving as we come to this table of Holy Communion. God be with you. Lift up your hearts. Let us give thanks to God.
It is right to give God thanks and praise.
It is right and a good and a joyful thing both now and always to give thanks to you, Almighty God, Creator of heaven and earth. And now we join our voices with those angels and those saints who have already gone on before us, as together we sing that never-ending song of praise. Santo, 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 mi corazón te adora, mi corazón te sabe decir, Santo eres Dios.
Separate us from you and those in our midst. We want to be the vessel that is filled up with your grace, with your love and your joy and your peace. So God, we need to empty out anything that is not of you. So may we pause for a moment and spill that out. You, eternal God of all creation, you want us to be in that deep communion with you, that deep relationship with you. We come before you and give you thanks for letting us be free, for forgiving us peace, compassion, hope, and love. Amen.
On the night on which Jesus was betrayed, he took the unleavened bread of the Passover feast. He lifted it up. He gave thanks for it and blessed it and then broke it and passed it to everyone in that room, saying, "Take and eat. This represents my body given for you. And each time that you eat this, do it in memory of me."
And in like manner, he took the vessel, the cup that was filled with fruit of the vine, and it was for a new covenant with each one of us. That he asked us to take a drink of this so that we would not thirst again. Take a bite of that so we wouldn't be hungry again. So that we can be filled up to overflowing, so that love and that grace and that mercy can be spilled out to others. So as you do do that in remembrance of Jesus.
Let us pray. Loving God, we thank you for these gifts. Thank you for this bread, the fruit of the earth and the work of human hands, and for this cup, the fruit of the vine. We ask that you would bless and consecrate these elements, that they would become for us the body and blood of Christ as we each understand that to be. And as we consume these elements, oh God, I pray that you would bless and consecrate our lives and set us apart to continue the work of justice and compassion that Jesus modeled. Amen.
Thankfully, here at the Met Church and MCCs throughout the world, you don't need to be a member. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to have a heart that's willing to find out. And so as you follow the directions of the ushers, they'll guide you forward to a server who will dip a wafer in grape juice, offer it to you to feed yourself, and give you a brief blessing. And as you're in that time of communion with God, be mindful that we're all in that time of communion together as you go back to your seat. God just asks us to come just as you are. Hear the Spirit call. Come just as you are.
prayer partners up here to pray with you. Nothing is too big, nothing is too small. Let them agree in prayer. And let's sing this final song as we leave. There's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. And I know that it's the spirit all around. There's a sweet expression on each face. And I know that you are present all around. Oh, sweet Holy Spirit, sweet heavenly dove, stay right here with us, filling us with your love. And for these blessings, we lift our hearts in praise. Without a doubt, we'll know that we have been defined when we shall leave this place. So as we leave here this morning, know that there is a miracle in your house. And maybe you're going to provide it for somebody else. But let's go in that faith believing as we leave here now. In the name of God, our Creator, the Christ, and the Holy Spirit. God bless you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the Thanksgiving weekend.